Hello, my dear readers. Today's story is a folklore. It's for my little friends over here and those adults who still enjoy folklores. There's, there's no fault in enjoying folklores even if you have grown up because they are so youthful, they are for everyone. When I was a child, I in my childhood ages I used absolutely loved and adored folklores. They were so gorgeous, they were so picturesque that I was enamored by them. I absolutely couldn't live without them. I used to sleep with them, I used to eat with them, I used to listen to them from my parents, and and of course because of that my parents, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, my relatives used to buy me these books, and these books were my dearest friends. So today I think that it's time that I share with you some of my childhood days and joys. And I still do love these folklores. Whenever I bring them down and read them, I absolutely go back in those days. I reminisce those days, those times, those glorious times when life was so beautiful, life was so uh, simple, and there is no complicacy. There was always glowing things and colorful things, and no tension, no nothing. So let's enjoy this story, my friends. Thank you. So let's get to the story. The Four Princes. Once upon a time there lived a king. He had 5 children, 4 princes and a princess. The king lived happily with his loving wife and children. He looked after the administration very well. The people in his kingdom were therefore happy. One day the queen fell ill. The king called for the best doctors and the hakims from all over the country and abroad. But alas, the queen could not be saved. The queen's death shattered the king. He was sad and gloomy in the absence of his dear wife. The courtiers tried to persuade the king to remarry for the sake of his children. At last, the king agreed and married again. The new queen looked after the children, but she was jealous of the king's great love for his children. The new queen had some magic power. Being jealous of the children, she decided to use her power on them. One day, the 4 princes were playing in the garden of the palace. The queen grabbed this opportunity and turned the princess into storks. The princess was saved because she was playing in her room at that time. The 4 princes had turned into storks and flown away. This news spread all over the palace like wildfire. The king and the princess grieved for the princess. The queen pretended to be sad. The princess made up her mind to bring her brothers back safely. That night, when everybody in the palace was fast asleep, the princess quietly crept out of the palace and went towards the forest. The princess reached the forest. She sat under a tree and wailed, "Oh God, will I never see my dear brothers again? Will they spend the rest of their lives as dogs?" Tired and disappointed, the princess fell asleep. The next morning she woke up and saw 4 storks on the tree. They were her dear brothers. Seeing their little sister, they flew down to her and said, "Dear sister, please do not worry about us. We are sure that God will help us in our difficult times." Having said this, the 4 storks flew away. There was a pond near the tree. A fairy appeared from the pond and said to the princess, "Little girl, your stepmother has magic powers. It is she who has turned your brothers into storks. If you do exactly as I tell you, you will certainly get your brothers back." The princess said, "Oh, fairy, I am ready to do anything to get my brothers back." The fairy continued, "You will have to observe silence for 6 months. Many things will happen during this period, but you will not utter a word. I am giving you these magic leaves. Within 6 months, you will have to make 4 coats from these leaves. At the end of the 6th month, you will see your brothers in the form of storks. Throw a coat on each one. As soon as the coats touch them, they will once again become princes. At the same time, it will also destroy the magic powers of your stepmother." The fairy gave the magic leaves to the princess. The princess took the leaves and started observing silence. The queen could sense the motive behind the princess's silence. She then called for Prince Mansingh from her father's kingdom. The queen said to him, "Go to the forest and try your best to break the silence of the princess." Prince Mansingh went to the forest and tried all the ways and means to break the silence of the princess. He asked her several questions and also shook her up vigorously. But the princess was not moved. She did not even look at Prince Mansingh. She had succeeded in observing complete silence. Prince Mansingh was struck by the beauty of the princess. He now respected and admired the princess for her great love for her brothers and her firm determination. He took the princess to his palace. The princess continued her work of making 4 coats from the magic leaves. Prince Mansingh put her up in an isolated tower so that she could observe silence and make the coats. At the end of the 6th month, the 4 coats were ready. The princess now waited for her brothers. One fine morning, as she peeped out of the window, she saw 4 storks. She knew that they were her brothers at once. She threw a coat at each one of them. As soon as the coats touched the storks, they turned into princes again. The princess came down to meet her brothers. The princess fondly embraced their little sister and thanked her for saving their lives. Prince Mansingh too came to meet the princess. The princess and her brothers returned to the palace of their father. They were accompanied by Prince Mansingh. The king warmly welcomed his children. The wicked queen had already lost her magic powers. The children pardoned the queen. The king and the princess thanked Prince Mansingh for the help he had given the princess. The princess was married to Prince Mansingh and they lived happily ever after. Thank you.